talking again, and today is Tuesday, April 7th, and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we changed our spot where we're actually doing our podcast today. We're up on the bridge, so it might look a little bit different with our background today.
Yeah, just thought we'd do something a little different.
Yeah. So I think our last podcast was back when we were on Amelia Island at Fernandino Beach on Thursday, March 19th. And I think we already talked a little bit about the island while we were on our last podcast, but I do want to do one shout out to a place that we ate there. We went to an Asian fusion restaurant, and it was called Wicked Bao. And it's spelled B-A-O, but it's Chinese word for bun. And we had an amazing meal there.
Yeah, we asked some of the locals something off the beaten path that's unique and not well known from tourist wise, and she said definitely got to go to this place, and it was definitely authentic Asian. Um, yeah, so we had pulled pork and chicken and salmon and ginger rice. And the owner was so appreciative. She came out and 2 or 3 times.
Her name was Natalie, and she greeted every guest, and then she'd stop and have a conversation with you. And it was just a really nice experience. So I wanted to make sure we brought it up on the podcast.
Yep, Wicked Bow. The other
Wicked
cool
Bow.
place was there was a Scully's Irish pub.
Yep, we stopped there and got a beer, but I still think the Wicked Bow was pretty cool.
Yep, for sure.
So the next morning we got up, which was Friday, March 20th, and our next stop was going to be Brunswick. And we actually had a slip arranged at the Brunswick Landing Marina. So we were pretty excited to get there. We left at our normal time, like right around 10 in the morning. And as we pulled out, we were followed by, remember the pirate ship?
I remember the pirate ship. I don't remember the name of it. That's what you're asking.
No. And then there was a big river cruise ship called the American Glory that came out with us too. So the exciting thing about this trip that morning is that we actually crossed into a new state. So we moved from Florida into Georgia. And believe it or not, we were in Florida for 3 years.
On and off.
All told, we were there for 3 years. One of the cool things as we pulled out, we passed the Kings Bay Naval Base over on the port side of the boat. And the cool thing about that is they service and degauss submarines. So as we went by it, you could see these coils, big, huge coils all lined up. I think we have a picture of it. We'll have to share a picture. And what happens is the submarines actually pull into the coils, and it reduces or eliminates its magnetic field. So it basically makes it magnetically invisible. So if basically to keep it from being targeted by like mines and sensors so that they don't get blown up, I guess. But we could actually see the coils that they pull into, so that was cool. The other thing, the Coast Guard were out like crazy that day, and one blew by us really fast, and we had a huge wake. Remember the wake that we had to deal with? But then the second Coast Guard, we had our little escort where he pulled up to our like stern port side, and he just hung back there the whole time as we passed the base.
I'm not sure he was escorting us. He was just in the area. But I do think that talking about wakes, and it's interesting when you're listening to the radio how boaters chat back and forth, and there was a kind of an irate conversation going on where someone didn't do a slow pass, which is what this boat didn't do for us. They didn't call us ahead of time and say, "Hey, we're going to slow pass you to keep our wake down." But when you are in a channel, in a river, and you have to stay kind of close to a boat that you're overtaking, you always want to radio them ahead of time and just tell them that you're requesting a slow pass, either to starboard or to port. Everybody slows down, keep the wake down, so you're not rocking each other. So just something to know. Proper navigation or being kind to other boaters in channels. Slow passes are pretty mandatory.
Yeah, it's very appreciated too. So on these journeys too, going up the Georgia coast, we had to go across a lot of sounds, which are like where the water comes in from the ocean and goes up inland. So as we went around the northern part of Cumberland Island into St. Andrews Sound, we had to head out into the ocean and then come back in, and it was really rolly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of an adventure on the way too. And then we made it up the Brunswick River and went under a beautiful bridge. It was a 165-foot suspension bridge.
Sydney Rayner Bridge.
Sydney Rayner Bridge, and it was beautiful. And then we pulled into the Brunswick Landing Marina.
Mm-hmm.
And this marina is really well known by loopers. It's actually a lot of loopers stop there during hurricane season. They kind of call it a hurricane hole. But they also call it a Velcro marina because when people get there, they don't want to leave. So they call it a Velcro marina. It was very social, a very social club. When we pulled in, we had two dockhands. One was named Dan and one was named Randy, and they were very helpful. And they very, very complimentary of Captain Chris, how he was able to back it into the slip. They said they were amazed. They see a lot of captains back their boats in and didn't do near as well as Captain Chris did. But then the cool thing about this marina is all the activities that they have for the guests that are there. Gina is an activities director, and so every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night they have happy hour.
Free beer,
free wine, Wi-Fi. They have a huge, beautiful boaters lounge.
a library,
exercise room. Did I say free laundry? Free laundry. It was really cool.
Very, very well known marina. Very, I would suggest highly, stopping or staying there. The town is older, and not a ton going on, not a lot of restaurants. I don't want to call it downtrodden, but it's.
No, I think they're trying to make a comeback with it. So they're bringing new restaurants in. The day that we got there, they were having Coast Fest, which they have once a year, where they do a lot of education about just everything that's along the coast, the lands, the wildlife, the waters. So we went to that. It was kind of like an outdoor festival with food trucks. They had a climbing wall for kids and all that. But some of the places that we actually went, the first day we hit that, it was called Spiral Wanderers Coffee Bar and Bookshop. And that was very interesting. We walked in and there was like tattoos, people getting tattoos in there. There was a coffee shop in the back. There was like a little shop you could buy things, flags, and coffee.
Yeah, and it was funny because all the shops that we stopped in, the owners just would pull us aside and would just did this whole advertising about that. I think trying to promote
downtown area.
Let's cut to a point. Like, look, we got. Thank you, but we got to move on.
We hit a Silver Bluff Brewery. We always have to find a good brewery while we're out and about. There was a bar called Tipsy McSway's that we stopped in, and it was so loud we actually had to sit outside and
music loud wise. They had a stage right there. The place wasn't very big, and you couldn't hear yourself think, let alone talk. So we took our cocktails and sat out on the sidewalk, and that was
nice.
cool. Watching everybody walk by and
And that day we ended up at a driftwood wine and cocktail bar and had a charcuterie tray and a cocktail, and that was a cute little place.
Hmm.
As far as dinners, we found a place called Reed's Apothecary that was really good. And then the last night we ate at a 1509 restaurant, which
Hmm.
we had steak
That
and
was the one that was upstairs.
uh-huh.
That was kind of a high end. Although it was upstairs, the views were just of the roofs of other buildings. So, but I mean, it was kind of a steakhouse kind of feel to it. I
Yeah.
mean, we sat at the bar; it was kind of swanky.
I think the highlight for me of this area though, we found an amazing golf course.
We did.
It was called the Sanctuary and it was just beautiful.
It was very well taken care of, and not real pricey. I think it was 150
Yeah,
a person.
yeah, but I mean, the way it was laid out, the greens were challenging. It was just gorgeous. Which, coming from some of the courses that we golfed in Florida, I thought it was
Yeah,
pretty nice.
and we're kind of getting into the season where the grass is starting to turn green again down here. The weather's getting warm, and the Bermuda grass and the POA that's down here is starting to green up, which helps a lot.
Yeah, it does. So while we were there, we did not venture to Jekyll Island or St. Simon's Island, but they said those are good stops if you're there and you want to do an adventure away from Brunswick. So then we left there on March 26th. So we were there 6 days. And one thing, I don't know if we want to mention this or not, but some of the marinas, they can either charge you daily or weekly. And sometimes it makes sense if you're going to be there 5 or more days to just go ahead and book for the week because you can get a rate that's less expensive. So we actually were there 6 days. And when we were getting up ready to leave that morning, remember the fog? There was dense fog that morning, and we were trying to get out on high tide, but we had to wait for the fog. So it was probably 9:45 before we actually pulled out of there that morning. But we had beautiful water. We saw lots of dolphins. Went through several sounds. And do you remember this was the area where there were tons of bugs? We
Oh yeah,
had the
well,
isinglass open in front. And
when you get out into the what they call salt marshes, they're just expanses, fields of marsh. I mean, grass that's probably waist high if you were able to walk on it. And so, obviously, a buggy area. So, we had to zip up all the isinglass, and Deb was running around the cabin with a fly swatter, smashing bugs and flies all over my clean windows.
big black flies. So let's see. We went through another sound. That one was so rolly that people were actually talking about it on the radio. Remember the
Mhm.
captains going back and forth saying, "Whoa, that was a rolly area." And we made it up St. Catherine's Island. We did some slow passes, like you just talked about,
Couple sailboats. Yep.
and a powerboat. And then we had to make a decision. We were either going, we couldn't make it all the way to Savannah. So we either had to turn left off the
Intra.
intracoastal and go 7 or 8 miles off, or we could find an anchorage. And we did. We found a really nice anchorage. It was on the north side of St. Catherine's Island in an area called Walberg Creek.
Hmm.
And
Very nice.
it was like the halfway point between Brunswick and Savannah. So 5 o'clock, we started to drop anchor and we had a little experience with the anchor. So I'm usually in charge of the anchor, and I went up and took the safety chain off and pushed the pedal to let the anchor down, and the anchor didn't move, and the windlass just kind of spun. And come to find out that Chris had actually put the little safety lock on the chain. And when I was pushing the pedal to make it go down, it flipped a breaker. So we switched spots and I went up to the engines and Chris came down and he flipped the breaker and got everything working. But he had to use this tool to tighten the clutch on the windlass.
Very good.
And as he was tightening it, it flew out of his hand and went flying into the creek. So we lost it to him. I was laughing hysterically up on the bridge, and he was just shaking his head.
Yeah, a windlass basically is designed. It's got a clutch or a slip to it that you can tighten or loosen, and you do so with it kind of looks like a crowbar, and you stick it in there and you tighten it to keep it from spinning or allow more spin. And I forgot to take it back out before I hit the pedal, and the damn thing went flying overboard. And of course, that's $120 piece of metal, so I haven't replaced it yet. I think I'm going to fashion something out of a broomstick.
Well, we were joking, wondering if Amazon would deliver to us while we were out there in the anchorage. But it was a great anchorage. I mean, we were probably in 20 feet of water, and we let out 110 foot of chain, and we basically didn't move all night other than the tide switching, and it was gorgeous.
I just it's just some funny things that just popped into my mind that aren't on your notes, and maybe you'll talk about this. But it is amazing the things that fall in the water. For instance, I had a electric air pump that you plugged in to fill up. You top off bicycle tires or your what do you call these buoys on the side of your boat? Yeah, you don't want so you have an air compressor. Well, I had the air compressor plugged into an extension cord, and I was holding the extension cord and was putting it out on the dock, and of course it unplugged itself and it went in, so I had to replace that. And then what was the other thing? Oh, then the other day, the wind came up, and so I went outside looking for we have a cart that like a wagon that we pull back and forth to use for groceries or whatever, and it was missing. But I was able to get our hook or boat hook and reach down far enough to grab it and pull it. So we were able to save it. I wasn't able to find the air compressor, but I do have a big magnet that I put on a rope that I can kind of search for things, but they got to be metallic before I can find them. So yeah, you really got to be careful with stuff falling in the water, right?
Okay, so we got to keep going because we got a lot to go through here. The next morning, we pulled up anchor at 9:30. It was a beautiful sunny day, and the the tides were at a low point. So we always have to watch to stay in the middle of the channel. And about 11 o'clock, we hit our first, what I would call, or would you call, a soft grounding, where we were in the middle of the channel near Amelia Island at the red channel marker number 102, going around, and the starboard, the right prop caught on a sandbar, I guess, some shoaling. So that made us come to a stop. The engines didn't stop, which was good, and we were able to point the bow to the port and kind of wiggled the boat over and got back in deeper water. So that was interesting.
It's just shoaling. I mean, when a river takes a bend, whenever that bend is, there's shoaling that goes on, and we barely got in it. Nothing serious, but yeah, we certainly had to adjust course.
Yeah, and then our next exciting part was we knew was coming up, which shook us up a little bit, was an area called Hell's Gate, which is a very narrow area. And I think we have a little video after we got through it, but very narrow and very shallow. And we worked really well together, though, I thought, going through there. Chris kept an eye on the gauge to make sure he was in the deepest part of the channel. And then I read off the depth like every couple seconds so that we could see if we were in deeper water, shallower water.
Because you'd be amazed sometimes it goes from 10 feet to 2 feet right now.
Yeah. So then finally we started seeing houses again, because this had been like a day and a half of no houses anywhere. And we finally got back to civilization and made it to the Savannah River and started heading up. And the Savannah River is amazing. It's very wide, very deep, a huge shipping channel. They say it's actually the second busiest port on the East Coast. So we pulled into our slip. We stayed at the IGY Savannah Marina, which is fairly new.
It's a year old. It's
Yeah,
brand new.
yeah, it was beautiful. We had a little incident trying to get into our slip, though. They put us on sea dock and in the very first slip. So as we were pulling in, there was a big boat with its bow sticking out, right, that we would share the dock with. They were C2. And as we came into the channel to get into our slip, we had to really pivot, and there was a wall next to us with the rail that goes up to the marina, and the wind caught us as we went by. We didn't hit the dock, but above the dock there was like an overhanging porch that you couldn't even see as you were pulling in, but it actually stuck out like what, 3 or 4 feet
Mm-hmm.
into the slip. So as the wind caught us, the back of the top, because it was high tide, the top of the boat actually hit that overhanging porch that was sticking out, made a horrible noise. We got in the slip and there were two dock hands there helping us, and we looked back, and I mean, it really stuck out far.
Well, there was no damage. I
Yeah.
mean, it even when you hit something going half a mile an hour, it makes terrible noise. But yeah, this overhang that we were high tide, and I was judging the back of the boat based on the dock on the side. That so I was coming in at a normal rate, a speed, but it was just like kind of going into a parking garage and being in too tall of a vehicle and hitting that thing. That's it's kind of what it was like, but no damage to.
Us or the dock, which is good.
Yeah.
A very friendly staff there. Everyone is so nice and they go out of your way to make sure you're welcome. Um, I think the biggest thing I remember there is the restrooms. Do you remember how clean and beautiful the restrooms were? And they actually had towels in there stacked for you. So, like you were at
Country club.
a country club. It was just amazing. Free laundry, free Wi-Fi. Uh, I think the only, if you could find a downside, the only downside is you're on the side across the river from historic downtown. It's so there's no restaurants or bars other than what's in the Westin. But the good thing was the ferry. So
Very good thing.
yeah, you
Well, there was the other great thing about that marina. There's a golf course right there. I mean, it's a nice golf course too. And they would take you basically across the street in a golf cart for your tee times. So I ended up playing there 3 times, and there's a nice bar and
restaurant
restaurant
there.
at the golf and a spa. Deb,
Yeah, you gave me a nice little surprise, and I had a massage, a 50-minute massage. So that was very sweet of you
thank you.
to set that up for me. Um, so when we did, what did we do when we got there? Immediately went to the River Walk, which is just bars and shops and restaurants and pubs on the historic side. The next day we did a hop on, hop off trolley, which Chris and I both like to do when we get to a new area, just so you can get a feel of everything there, and then you can always take time to go back later to the places that you want to visit again. So we did hop on, hop off trolley. We were actually there for what, 7, 9 days maybe?
No, I was. You came home. You went back to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I came back to Cincinnati for 3 or 4 days and then came back. And then April 5th, Easter Sunday, we left there for a very short trip to get to Hilton Head, Harbor Town Yacht Basin, which is where we're at now. So the good thing, we crossed into another state. So the Savannah River actually separates Georgia from South Carolina. So we crossed into another state pretty quick. Saw lots of dolphins. Uh, You'd be happy to know as we got out of our slip, we didn't hit anything. We were able to back out and had no problems with that. But you want to talk a little bit about Harbortown?
Hey, it's just I'm looking at the lighthouse right now, the iconic red and white lighthouse, and I just think it's cool that my parents used to bring us down here for a vacation when I was a kid, so I know the area pretty well, and it was just so different coming in from the water than coming in from the road. But yeah, it's I'm sure a lot of people have been to Hilton Head. If you hadn't, it's a very, 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 very popular place for families. Lots to do, lots of golf courses, and of course, this is the week before the RBC, which is the golf tournament they have here after the Masters, which is going on this week. So we got tickets to go one day, and the plan, weather permitting, and it's looking good, is that we're going to anchor Sedan along the 18th fairway green for the Saturday Sunday. They set up an anchorage out there for people, and they actually have water taxis that take you back and forth from your boat back to Harbor Town if you want to go to the tournament or go in and eat at restaurants, whatever. So this has kind of always been a bucket list thing. I've always wanted to do that. So look for us on TV. We got friends and family and a bunch of other people coming down to join us. So that's going to be kind of a highlight reel for me anyway.
Yeah, it'll be a great time. We're
And,
looking forward to it.
and of course, we're also golfing twice, well, three times this week. We're meeting up with my cousin Kathy, and her husband Kevin, and we're going to golf their club one day, and then we're also going to golf the Atlantic course, and we're going to go to Palmetto Dunes. So we're going to be playing golf Monday, Wednesday, Friday this week. Saturday will kind of be a down day, and then Sunday we'll head over to another marina, um,
Shelter Cove.
Shelter Cove.
Shelter Cove
We
Marine.
can't stay in this marina during the tournament, so we got to move to just another one, but it's not very far away, and it'll be easy to get back and forth on the boat to the Anchorage area. So,
That's the plans.
yeah, good times.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We hope you have a great day.
And happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
See ya.
Bye.